Hello, folks. Welcome to the BeyondTheBaselines.com podcast. I'm Ed Shanaphy, and today on the line, I've got Maxwell Shteyman, who's CCM CEC. He's the director of Culinary and Clubhouse Operations at Montammy Golf Club up there in New Jersey. Welcome, Max. How are you?
Very well, and yourself, sir?
I'm great. Great to see you as we head into October, the Halloween season, event season for you up there,
Yes,
uh,
sir.
deep in the clubhouse operations. Max and I met at the CMAA conference last year. We happened to sit down next to each other having lunch, and I reached across and shook hands and said, "Hey, you look like you're at the CMAA. You got the same kind of badge I do." We started talking, and we had a lot in common and a few friends in common. And I thought I'd get him on the podcast. Our first chef, but our first executive chef and our first director of clubhouse operations ever on the podcast. So it's great to have you, Max.
It's great to be here.
So I know when we met, you were at another club. So you've moved in the last 6 months. Tell us about the move and how you found Montami and how you found uh, the ethos of the club and how you might be working with that ethos and changing it up a little bit.
So around, I guess, going into a break during our closure at Montclair Golf Club, that's usually when I do all my education and my traveling for CMA. Um, Went through conference, everything was great, getting ready to open up. When we came back, we were hit with the news that our general manager was leaving the club, and in my mind, I'm like, well, do I want to grow or do I want to stay and stick around and be a part of somebody else's growth? So as all this was going on, my current general manager, Greg Davino, reached out to me on LinkedIn, and he had just come up north from being at Broken Sound Club for a number of years,
Mm-hmm.
and a conversation started, and
So
it kind of that one thing led to another, and he started saying, "This is what I'm looking for. This is what I need," and I was intrigued. Um, Working for a younger general manager who comes in with a plethora of ideas and just everything that he was selling, I'm ready to buy, and I want to be a part of that journey right away as
so
to converting an old school club with an old school mentality to something different.
that's awesome. And you know what's interesting is it was a personal connection through LinkedIn. It's so much of that happening now. I was just mentioning that to another mentor of mine, and you've gone up there and followed him. Take us back to how you started in the industry, how you started behind the ovens and the stoves, and where your culinary journey has taken you.
So I started working in professional kitchens when I was 14, around 31 years ago, and my love for cooking started when I was, I think, 5 or 6 years old. My grandfather was the cook in his house, and I would go there and spend the weekends with him and just watch and just sit there instead of watching TV. I would watch him whip up food, and it was nothing special. It was just homemade food from their home country, and I was just intrigued, and I just loved being a part of the whole daily ritual of him making dinner and preparing meals for the house.
You know, you say the word prepping. I'm clubhouse manager, operations director down here at the Boulevard, and the amount of food prep is extensive. People don't realize it. You know, you as a chef, you as a head of restaurant, the prepping on both sides of the chef's door, of the kitchen door, from behind the line to the tables. How do you prepare your staff when you're hiring someone? You say, hey, look, I need you here to be prepping and cooking. I mean, obviously you get staff sometimes that don't want to give that time, especially given the younger generation we're facing right now. How do you prep them for the food prep?
Unfortunately, that's you have to go with and then lead them and teach them that this is what's required and what's asked of you. And sometimes it's just like planting a garden. You have to pull those weeds of occasionally, and there's always a casualty in the kitchen. And whether it be front or back of the house, there's always a casualty because, we in a restaurant, you can run out. In a restaurant, you can say anything you need to say. Our members do not want to hear excuses. They don't want to hear, well, our prep guy didn't feel like cooking something today. It needs to get done. And that's, the assertiveness that as leaders we need to be pushing onto our younger cooks and even our generational cooks. We
Yep.
need to be assertive and take action with all of them.
You mentioned that you are now you have an executive chef that you've just relieved of their post, and you're now filling that role as well as being clubhouse operations director. Obviously, you're making a lot of changes with your GM. What do you think has been the major change and the impetus behind that change? Is it coming from you guys, or is it combined with the membership? And what's the change been?
It's really the membership. The membership needs to, they're at a point that they need to find their placement in the market. For years and years, they've looked at other clubs that were in the surrounding area. And now it's this time, it's their time to make the push and to be the club. And that's kind of the journey that I wanted to be on with our current general manager. We want to be the club. We want to be the club that sets the standards for Northern New Jersey. We want to be the club that sets the standards for experiences, not only through a member dining experience or a member guest experience, just a total overall experience. We're lucky to have a mixed community within our membership, which not only gives us the opportunity to be creative, but it gives us the opportunity to leave nothing left to put on the table.
Right.
You know, from Korean barbecue to Passover dinners, we we're open to doing everything for them.
That's fantastic. That's an interesting point that you get to cook so many different nationalities or foods, international foods. Um, when you're setting up a menu, does that come in? Must come into play? And you're obviously doing a lot of different types of holidays. I mean, I think this is Yom Kippur is today. So, when you're setting up a menu, do you think of those things every time?
All the time, all
That's
the time.
fantastic.
And I mean, even last week, we were fortunate. We had our senior Korean membership and a few of the younger Korean members. They took the management staff out to dinner, which I was personally floored. I've never had, over 20 years working in private clubs, I've never had members invite me and actually take me out to dinner.
That's really
And
nice.
not only did they take us out, they made us feel like we were the most important people in the room. The way they spoke about the change in the club and the environment, and we had our dining room manager that with us as well, and she's been with the club for forever. And the love and respect they have for this lady, I've never seen that before in any club environment. It was really,
That
it was just showed a level of optimism as to what the members are really like and should be like years to come.
Yeah, I had Dave Hennion on, who's now a president, started out as a golf professional, became director of golf, and he's as president of the club, as a member, is trying to get the membership much closer to the management and employee staff. And he's down in South Georgia. And I said it's tougher, but you're up here in New Jersey, and your members are starting to do that, which is fantastic. I know some of my members up where I am in Massachusetts are doing that, but there's still a line sometimes. You have four dining outlets. You have four, I guess, restaurant managers at each outlet. How do you have weekly meetings with them? How do you mentor them? How do you say this is what we're going to do? What's your management style like with those four leaders?
We're consistently meeting, whether it be a small little breakout throughout the day. In my office right now, I share the office with my director of food and beverage, with the dining room manager, and there's plenty of seating for everybody else to join in on these meetings, with my sous chef, my a la carte sous chef, banquet sous chef, and junior sous chef. We all sit down and constantly go over our day, our week. We have whiteboards in the kitchen that we're constantly communicating as to what needs to be done. Little notes, little tidbits of information. We're trying to make sure that everything is plug and play as shift changes, as people go on days off. We want it to feel like nobody's off. We want
Right.
everything to progress as the day goes on.
Do you still use the term 86 when something's run out? I just
I don't like
remember,
to use that. I don't
you
like to
know,
use that term, period.
okay.
Nothing, nothing is ever 86.
All right. I didn't know that term, and I started working behind a bar about 20 years ago, and someone's like, hey, Ed, 86 the oysters. Like, what does that mean? 86. But a good food outlet does run out of things, especially if you keep the food fresh. You can't have
Of
it for
course,
everybody. Do you do the ordering for all the food, or does your executive chef, when they're in, do they do it, or do you do it together?
collaboratively.
Yep. Good. So you guys have a real team going on. I don't know your background as well as I should. Did you always start in the clubs, or were you outside the private members club sphere before you came into it as a chef?
Uh, before I before I went into clubs, I worked in restaurants, catering facilities, hotels. I wanted to really get a feel of the whole industry before I started settling. Um, Honestly, during my after I like during my wedding or when I got married, my wife and I we were at our on our honeymoon, and I was working in Midtown Manhattan at the Copacabana at the time. And while we were taking a break from um, enjoying our honeymoon, she took a nap, and I'm sitting there and watching the news. And it's that the scene of the New York Jets walking into the MTA offices to buy the and to start the creation of the West Side Project, which obviously never happened. But initially, there were talks for a football stadium to be
Yeah.
on the west side of Manhattan, and thankfully, so it never happened. But at that point, my wheels started turning as to maybe it's not that safe to be in New York City in the restaurant and hotel business because you know nothing is sacred. You can be here one day and then gone the next. And my wife was working for a legal staffing firm,
Mhm.
and she was the executive assistant to the owner of the company, and he was a member at Beach Point Club,
Wow,
and
Beach
that's
Point up
kind
in
of
Mamaroneck.
yep, and that's what opened the door to a full-time career in the private club sphere.
Great place to start. Wonderful club, great management. Um, yeah, really interesting place. Mamaroneck is safer than New York. Both
Yes, just a little.
physically and for your job, I think.
As
Uh,
long as it doesn't rain too hard, then
yeah,
we're all good.
yeah, exactly. And I am sure when you're at Beach Point Club, because I believe that's a Jewish club.
Yes, it
Um,
is.
yeah, my next question leads right into this. So obviously that taught you a lot, and you were in New York before, but how do you handle extremely I'm watching the Starbucks menu go get bigger, then it gets smaller, and then it gets bigger, and then it gets smaller, and they're trying to figure out how to make money. How do you handle special dietary needs? They're getting so particular now. You have vegan, you have genetically modified, non-GM, vegetarian, pescatarian. How do you deal with all that? Do you have like a big chart that you deal with it? When you have a club this size of Montammy?
Well, the first step you do is you properly label all your menu items. As long as everything's properly labeled,
Mm-hmm.
you have the basis as to what you're prepared to do for the membership. In terms of the special needs that go beyond dietary, I'm always a found thinker that the menu is just a suggestion sheet as to what we have available in the club, and they could do whatever they want, and I'm personally willing to do whatever the members would like, as long as they give us the time to do it. And for
Right.
you, other than that, I don't mind. It's their club, and I'm their humble servant.
I
You
kind
know,
of like that idea. It's a challenge because they'll come in with new. It's not like a place where you put on the bottom of the menu no substitutions, please. You allow substitutions and you create whatever they want, and that's a challenge. It's kind of fun.
unfortunately, there are many clubs that do that, and I don't think that's fair to the membership because not everybody wants to buy what you're selling.
Right. Correct. Yep. What How do you tailor the actual dining experience? So you've got four outlets, they're all very different. I'm sure you have like a club, a pool outlet, a cabana type outlet. You've got the formal dining room, you've probably got a grill of some sort. How do you tailor each of those uh, those experiences differently? Do you hire differently for them, and the menu is obviously different, but how do you tailor each vibe? I'm looking for the ethos of each area, each outlet.
Well, the staffing, number one, their aesthetic, their appearance is different in each outing, in each outlet. We want the members to feel like they're walking into a different zone, where, so to speak. And our main dining room is called the sports bar, and we have the TVs going and everything. And the staff during the day, they're dressed casually in polos and black pants, and we kind of keep a casual vibe in there.
Mm-hmm.
Right on the other side of the wall, we have our halfway house, which is a grab and go small little cafe type of deal, and everybody there has a different appearance, where there really is no table service. They're serving
Right.
themselves. There's
Yep.
just two cooks in the back, and they're slinging eggs or burgers and very quick bites. And then when
It's
you go
kind of
to the
like a
pool, everybody's dressed in shorts and a t-shirt, and we're blaring music everywhere, and we're trying to, you know, make the vibe feel like they're an all-inclusive in Mexico.
how uh how many people do you have underneath you? How many employees do you have in your department?
In the kitchen, we have 24,
Yep.
including all the managers, and that's
Mm-hmm.
along the around the whole campus. And then when you start adding in our H2B uh, visa people, employees, we have around 10 of them.
Mm-hmm.
But in total, for the clubhouse alone, with managers and administrative staff and everything, we have around 65 employees in total.
It's a big operation.
Yeah,
That's a lot of uniforms. It's a lot of scheduling, a lot of rotations. Um, Let me ask you about trends you're seeing. Obviously you've already said you're excited because you can cook so many different types of international foods where you are up there in New Jersey. But what food trends excite you right now? What are the ones that you love, and maybe give me one that you don't love? What excites you right now?
I love food trends that are a little more straight to the point. When there's too much fusion, it just
Mhm.
doesn't. It truly leads to confusion. Mixing Mexican with Korean. It's fine in some places when you're making tacos, and trust me, I'll be the first one to take bulgogi beef and put that in a corn tortilla, and then add a nice Asian inspired slaw with a lot of kimchi and everything. And that's, for me, that's money. But it's when things really don't work, that it's like you're just sitting there and scratching your head. And I think it just leads to so many the members criticizing you on a level that's beyond, you know the way I see, when I write the menus and when I develop um, evenings. I look at it as the members are coming to their home, and there's a place and time for everything. Our lunches should be simple, it should be precise. Um, we have, if we want to do something crazy, let's make specials
Mm-hmm.
and do it that way. But let's make sure that the food is relatable, so that there's no second guessing. The members are understanding of what they're going to get, and it can be consistent every time, and not leave too much user interpretation.
You're making me hungry with the beef and slaw. But I agree. I watch some of even just the food channel, right? And when they put too many ingredients in, they confuse each other. I love the fusion leads to confusion statement that you say, because a lot of times the more ingredients you have in anything, not just food, in tennis and management and in business, the more chances there are for criticism because there's more to criticize, right?
Of course,
Simplicity.
it just leads to sloppy plate. If you have more than four components on a plate,
Yep.
it's sloppy. We're only given a plate. An average plate only has 8 inches of an 8 inches of workspace. That doesn't mean 8 inches of to fill it up from rim to rim. You want to leave something to their imagination. If they need to pull a little protein to the side so then they can taste it alone, but it doesn't mean that it needs to be fully filled.
What's your favorite sauce on top of a salmon?
Oh wow. Honestly, I would probably go with a teriyaki, something Asian.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
great. I love.
salmon is
Yeah, go
salmon
ahead.
is great, but I need acid, I need body. Upper Blanc is fun. Maybe a good squeeze of grilled lemon would do it justice.
I kind of like right there. That's what I like. I like grilled salmon with just a bunch of squeezed lemon on top. It's really good. Let me ask you this: how in terms of you obviously moved with your GM. How do you mentor your young chefs and your kitchen staff? Because I'm sure you go to the CMAA, you want to see them grow just like you have. And I've seen you grow in the last year. You've gone from executive chef now to clubhouse operations as well. How do you mentor your staff? Do you bring them all in together once a month? Do you have like handouts? Do you have instruction sheets? Do you have handbooks? How do you help them out?
I like to take them beyond the walls of the club. It's hard this first year. Most of the food events, vendor events happen outside of the season of the club. So usually in the February and March, April, before we hit the ground running, I like to take them to the vendor meetings that I go to
Mm-hmm.
the product showcases that I go to, and I want them to see what's out there and start getting those wheels turning. I want them to. I always encourage my team, bring ideas in whenever we're doing buffets. Like, I'm fine with buffets, but I hate doing them. I think that it's
why
just
why why do you hate buffets?
it's just so much waste. And you can't just put one station out there.
Right.
You have to put multiple stations out there. And everybody has a different expectation. For me, I look at buffet as an opportunity to let's see what let's see what boundaries we could cross. What can we push? What can we,
So
what
you look at it
buttons
as like
haven't
you look
been
at it as a
crossed?
testing. You look at it as a testing site almost like.
Exactly. Whenever I see things online, I like to buy them because, it's not my money. And I look at every purchase that I make, whether it be big or small, as a improvement or an advancement in the creation of a new member experience. And I was on Ace Hardware and I bought 3 uni ovens so that we can make pizza in the middle of the golf course, and instead of having to
Order
what
in
is it
from the
called,
pizza.
bring in a truck or anything, and those pizzas come out great. And we're
That's
just
fun.
creating a different experience for the members. And whether we do a pizza or a sandwich or even roasted chicken in there, it's something different from this one little oven.
It's a different experience for the member. Member
Yeah,
experience is so important. Let me ask you about costs because or pricing because you just said it buffets. I run an operation here. We have about 120 cover restaurant, and we do an event probably once every 2 or 3 weeks where we do a buffet. And buffets can get expensive. How do you?
very expensive.
Yeah, because as you say, there's a lot of waste, so you got to count that waste into it. Or at least not cook, just cook to almost, it's not cook to order, but cook to the demand because you want to use some of those supplies later in the week, right? So how do you price a buffet? It's very difficult. How do you do it?
Honestly, I go by what I try to price it as high as possible and go backwards. Usually, our price point for buffets are around, I believe, $60 a person,
Mm-hmm.
just for a regular Sunday night barbecue or a Thursday night barbecue, whatever the day of the week it might fall on. If the day, if we don't have at least a certain amount of covers, I'll send out an email to the membership and say there's no buffet. We're going to do a la carte,
Right.
and we're going to re-engineer the menu based on what would have been on the buffet. But I try, whenever we do action stations, which I try to do an abundance of.
When you
It's
say action
really
stations, you mean like a pasta station, like a
chef man chef
chef
man
managed?
stations.
Yeah.
We try to do things that are quick cooking, where we're not. It's more about live action and little waste,
Right. Right.
and
The waste is
this way we can be on the winning end of the spectrum. I don't care about a potato or a vegetable, but to saute shrimp and fish or do something where we're controlling the output. right over there, that's where I get to gain some momentum back and save.
My chef here, he's experienced, he's great. He basically sets up an event and then he knows for the next week what his specials are going to be because that part of that food ordering for the buffet is going to affect your specials. You're the same way up there, I'm sure.
Unfortunately, I'm not.
You're not.
If the members see some like crazy deviation,
Yeah,
and not that we don't do anything special for them, we do. But if they have an inkling that if we had a mitzvah or a wedding the night before,
yeah.
and they have an inkling that that food was left over from that event,
They're not gonna. They're gonna
they're
be
not
annoyed.
gonna. They're gonna be like, "Where's the specialness of this?"
Yeah, I hear
Um,
you.
I'd
So,
rather
so
I'd
that
rather run
that
out of something than
yep.
give them that.
So your cost of goods because you're at a club because they know the events that are coming is higher than a restaurant or a resort because if people at a restaurant don't know what happened the night before.
Exactly. We budget for that.
Yep. Finally, since you've created your own role here that's so fantastic, how do you see the role of executive chef? I mean, obviously you've evolved. How do you see it evolving? Do you think it's going to get bigger? Is it going to stay the same? Is it gonna? How's it going to evolve the executive? You know, on my side, I ask this because only 10 years ago it was a head tennis pro, right? And then it became a director of tennis, and now it's director of rackets because they've added pickleball and they've added padel and they've added squash or whatever. How do you see the executive chef role evolving?
I see it the same exact way. Um, when I left Montclair Golf Club, our interim general manager that was there, and the meetings that I had with the board, I urged them to change the structure of the position. I firmly believe they should go into the realm of a director of culinary. And the same thing that goes, they need it. There's so many different outlets. The club is just too busy for one executive chef.
Right.
Create while I was there, I kind of led it that way, where I was the director of culinary without the title, but each outlet, each thing had its own manager, had its own point person, so that there was accountability for each and every space. Whether it was our aquatic center that had seating up to 300 people at any given time. They just opened a turn station that can pump out food and have seating for another 60 people. To the a la carte dining, get, they can do upwards of 275 on a Friday without. And when they're walking into the door, we're only they can at a they can have a capacity of only 160 reservations. So there's a lot of turnover in the clubhouse. So it's not it's not set up, or that club is not set up for one person. Everybody needs to take ownership and needs to be um, delegated that way. And
Right.
the same thing is going to go with needs to go with the front of the house. You can't have a director of restaurants or director of food and beverage. Those days are over. You need a director of food and beverage outlets. You need people not only to feel like they're growing in the position, that they're, even though they're a restaurant manager, they're more than that, and they should feel like they're more than that. I personally feel like you know that structure needs to start evolving with the times. You know, you can't just rest a whole operation on one person's shoulders, whether it be a restaurant manager or an executive chef or even a clubhouse manager. There's so much more that goes into that one job,
Mm-hmm.
that it needs to be they need to feel like they're being rewarded with the title to fill the position that they're and the responsibilities that they're doing every day.
And you're setting that up where you are now. You said to me in our pre-game show that you have four leaders at each outlet,
Yep,
and you're going to bring in a new executive chef, but that you're setting this kind of idea up where you are now with your GM. So I think that's a part of your mentoring style right there, isn't it?
exactly. That's exactly what I like to do. I want everybody to feel like they are the face of their specialty, and the members should know that. They should know who the point person is for their event and feel comfortable speaking to that person not just the executive chef or the director of culinary or whatever it is. There should, you know, they should know who's serving their meal.
Exactly. Max, it's been great having you on. Thanks so much. I look forward to hopefully seeing you out in California at the CMAA, and we'll grab another lunch, I hope, when we're both out there. Great to see you.
Same here. Thank you so much for having me.